morning, Canada. Welcome back to another episode of Question Period. Today is October 29th, 2025. And I've been so busy watching the Jays and swimming with turtles, which I did yesterday. I swam with turtles yesterday. That I completely forgot that today, actually, like an hour ago, we have a massive Bank of Canada rate announcement. So we're going to be taking a look at that because, yeah, that's good. Or it's not good. But also what is good is those Jays. How about that, huh? Pretty good. 2-2. Where's it going next? Is it going back to Toronto or is it staying in LA? Here's a photo. I don't know how to pull it up on my screen. But here's a photo. Swimming with a turtle. Did that shit yesterday. That's pretty sweet. That was pretty sweet. There's me and my wife. That's pretty sweet. That was pretty sweet, man. That was pretty sweet. All right, Jays in 6. That's what people are saying. Where was I yesterday? Sorry, dude. I've already said where I am, and sometimes you know I can make it, sometimes I can't. And I've been consistent for like 4 years of doing this, and I've done it when I was sick. I think I wasn't on camera, but I think when my wife was giving birth to our daughter, our first child, I think we were in the hospital, and I would quickly go back home. I'd start the stream, and I just let it run in an empty room for the Emergencies Act inquiry. And then I go back to the hospital. So, like, give me a break. Give me a break, ladies and gentlemen. God forbid I try to enjoy myself a couple of days here and there. But we got quite the day pulled up. We've got Doug Ford throwing Mark Carney under the bus. We've got the Bank of Canada announcing, a rate announcement. We've got Danielle Smith under fire from mainstream media. We've got the Jays tying the series. There's a lot to take a look at. So I hope you stick around for as much of the stream as you possibly can. Now, I have said this in a previous stream a few days ago, and I'll say it again. When the meat and potatoes of Question Period is done, okay, so once we get about through the halfway point and all the A-team conservatives have said their piece, I will likely be cutting it off there. We're not going to go all the way to the end because I just don't have that time right now. Normally, yes, we'll be back to normal on like Monday, but right now for the next couple of days, okay, it's all I can do right now. It's all I can do. All right. Aloha, Jasper, looking very, very tropic today. Keep doing your thing, brother. Much appreciated that you continue to inform the public. Thanks, man. Thanks. By the way, this Shaka is official in 2024 as well. I wasn't really listening when we got the announcement on a tour yesterday, but it's officially like the sign of peace or something like that in Hawaii. It's always been a thing, but officially 2024, they made it official. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's, I seen some questions about like, how's it going with the vacay and stuff. It's phenomenal, dude. It's phenomenal. I'll talk all about it when I get back home. I'll share some photos. I'll share some videos. I'll put together a little thing so everyone can kind of see and stuff like that. So if you're feeling like I'm just brushing it off right now, I am. I want to focus on what's going on in Canada. I want to focus on the news. That's the point of these streams. But when I do get back, I'll be sharing some ins and outs of the trip because time of my life, time of my wife's life too. Like she's having a blast, and that's the most important thing. Happy spouse, happy house, happy wife, happy life. All right, let's get into this, shall we? Starting things off with Canada. The Bank of Canada cuts key interest rate to.
But let's first.
I didn't even hit play yet. The Bank of Canada cuts the key interest rate to 2.25%. It's happening. It's happening. Here we go.
But let's first begin with that breaking news from the Bank of Canada. It has cut its key interest rate by 25 basis points, bringing it down to 2.25%. The bank's governor, Tiff Macklem, has just been speaking about the decision to reporters in Ottawa.
This was our second straight cut and reflects ongoing weakness in the economy and contained inflationary pressures. The weakness we're seeing in the Canadian economy is more than a cyclical downturn.
Is that what they're going to say?
It's also a structural adjustment. The U.S. trade conflict has diminished Canada's economic prospects. The structural damage caused by tariffs is reducing the productive capacity of the economy, and it's adding costs.
Can't help himself.
And the CBC's Nisha Patel was watching that.
Canada's problems, didn't you know, are all because of America. It's got nothing to do with our own governance and our own government. It's got nothing to do with our own decisions, our own trade policies. It's got nothing to do with any of that. Canada's problems are all because of America. That's what they're saying.
And the CBC's Nisha Patel was watching that news conference. She joins me now. Okay, so Nisha, despite inflation being over the 2% target, we heard this news of a rate cut, and we heard more details too from the Bank of Canada's governor. What stood out to you?
Yeah, the Bank of Canada seems less concerned about inflation at this point, Arthi. Even though it's at 2.4% above target, the central bank seems to think it will cool throughout the rest of the year. And the clear priority right now is the economy, which of course is being hammered by the trade war with the U.S. GDP shrank in the second quarter, likely to stay weak throughout the end of the year, may pick up a little bit next year, but we are seeing job losses, investments being...
And this is why we have a liberal government, because liberals are the greatest at fear-mongering in Canada. Conservatives are all about being objective, truthful, for the most part, when you compare it to liberals, at least, okay, honest, not like the people conservatives. I just mean the politicians and policies and stuff like that. Liberals are the best at fear mongering, and Canada's nationalistic pride. It's not like America. Okay, America, they wave the American flag and they're like, "Yeehaw, proud to be American." Get them. We don't have that in Canada. We say, "Oh, it's about time we're not American." Like, Canada's nationalistic pride is not proud to be a Canadian. It's proud to not be American. And when you have that as the epicenter of so much emotions and the reason why people vote the way they do and affect policy and affect legislation, then it's easy to manipulate the masses. This right now is very easy for the liberal media and the liberal government to push this fear-mongering onto Canadians, because you know what? Maybe you don't fall for it. I certainly think that I don't fall for it. I think I'm immune to this anti-American rhetoric, but more than half of the country somehow falls for it. And it's gross. It's disgusting. Because Americans and America is our friends and our neighbors. And yeah, sure, we're fighting right now, and it's not very good. Like, I'm not saying America is being the best trading partner right now. Okay, we're button heads. It takes two to tango. I can say that. But Canada is so rude and mean and disgusting when it comes to relationships with America. And right now, the Bank of Canada governor, we're cutting interest rates, not because of our economy. Our economy's fine, says these guys, right? Never mind the massive inflationary costs from COVID, where price of blueberries were like $3 in 2019, and now they're like $12. Don't quote me on that, but you get what I'm trying to say. Now, our economy's fine, according to these people. It's America that we have to worry about. That's why we have to cut rates, because of America. It's bizarre.
Frozen across certain sectors, including steel, autos, the forestry sector. And so this rate cut really is to kind of kickstart the economy a little bit. Lower interest rates make borrowing money cheaper. And so anyone with a variable rate mortgage or a line of credit, it gives them a little bit more room, a little bit more confidence to spend, and they spend that money throughout the economy. It is not great for savers, though. If you have a high interest savings account and you've been been loving those really high returns on that. That will get a little bit lower as well. So a little less return on that as rates go down, but it looks like that's where we're at, 2.25%.
And we've seen sort of an evolution of attitude perhaps from the Bank of Canada governor over the course of the year as this country and the economy continues to deal with.
It's important to note, okay, and this isn't my opinion. This is a fact that has been said by the Liberal government, by the Bank of Canada governor, and by banks. Just because interest rates are coming down, just because the Bank of Canada rate is now 2.25%, that's prime, plus one is usually the best deal you can get for a mortgage. So in theory, if you have good credit and decent income, then you should be able to qualify for 3.25% mortgage. However, that's not how that works. You don't just get prime, which is 2.25%, plus one, which would bring it to 3.25%. If the banks, RBC, CIBC, TD, Nova Scotia Bank, you're richer than you think, Bank of Montreal, if all the banks, if they don't follow the Bank of Canada decision, and it's entirely up to them on whether or not they want to follow the Bank of Canada's decision, then rates are staying at what the banks decide. It won't go lower than 1% above prime, which is currently 2.25%. So you're not going to get a 3% mortgage today. The best you could get is 3.25, but that's only if the banks follow suit. And we saw like 6 months ago when they started to really bring down the rates, the banks didn't follow. The banks stayed at 5%, 5.5%. They're like, we're just going to wait and see. We're just going to wait and see, right? And so in theory, if you're looking at this as like, hey, yeah, more borrowing power, well, not for you, though. Not necessarily for you. For the banks, for the big dogs, for the elites, but not for you. And it's weird. It's weird because the banks get to choose independently, if I'm not mistaken, whether they want to follow the Bank of Canada's decision to bring down rates.
Trade, we're expecting one more announcement in December. How do we think things are going to pan out to that point?
Well, the central bank governor really giving a clear signal today that it seems like interest rate cuts are done for now. The signal from the central bank saying that if the inflation and the economy continue down the path that they projected, that this is the right level for interest rates. So likely no more cuts this year unless something crazy happens with the economy and they are prepared to respond for that. We are also going to hear from the U.S. Federal Reserve today. They are also likely to cut interest rates. But really, the other interesting thing from the central bank, Arthi, talking about how there's this real structural shift for the Canadian economy, that this trade war has caused a big change in how we do business with our biggest trading partner, the United States. And this is something that businesses are really going to have to strategize and live with as probably a long-term future.
Okay, thank you for this, Nisha. That is the CBC's Nisha Patel.
Yeah. So again, I mean, interest rates coming down. Is this good? Is this bad? I'm going to pass the question off to you and let you guys decide. Do you think that this is good? Do you think that this
policy?
Man, I freaking open up the next clip and it starts playing. Do you think this is good or do you think this is bad? Let me know down below in the comments. Now we're actually going to take a look at Tiff Macklem, who takes questions from reporters on this.
We have the policy rate only at the lower end of kind of the neutral range. It's not in deeply stimulative territory, and yet your projection for the economic outlook is pretty bad. It's pretty weak. And you talk about the kind of constraints on monetary policy in stimulating the economy when we're going through this kind of structural shift. Can you unpack that a little bit? Why are we not talking about more stimulus from the Bank of Canada when we are talking about a very weak economic outlook and one that, there's going to be permanent scarring from the U.S. trade policy?
Well, first point, Mark, is we're now at the lower end of our range of neutral. So monetary policy is providing some stimulus. But as I tried to outline in my opening remarks, the role of monetary policy in the current situation is somewhat limited. What we're going through is not just a cyclical downturn. And what do I mean by cyclical? Cyclical means, you go down and you come back up. You go back to your previous trend path. It's not just a cyclical downturn. Part of it is a cyclical downturn. I mean, demand for our products, particularly in the United States, is lower. And there's a cyclical element to that. But part of it is structural. The U.S. has swerved to protectionism. It's harder to do business with the United States. That has destroyed some of the capacity in this country. It's also adding costs. Businesses are looking for new markets. They're reconfiguring their supply chains. That adds costs. So, the fact that this is partly structural and the fact that it's adding costs limits the ability of, or limits the role of monetary policy in boosting demand while keeping inflation low. So, I mean, just to sort of unpack that a little bit more for you, what can monetary policy do? Well, first of all, monetary policy, let me start with what it can't do. I mean, monetary policy can't target specific sectors. It can't target the hard-hit sectors, aluminum, steel, autos. It can't help companies find new markets. It can't help companies reconfigure their supply chains. What it can do is it can try to mitigate the spillovers from the hard-hit sectors to the rest of the economy, and it can try and help the economy adjust to this structural change. But its role is limited because, as I said, this is more than a cyclical downturn. It's a structural change. There are added costs that limits how much we can boost demand and keep inflation well controlled.
Which is interesting because they said inflation is not the problem here, right? This is where it's all very confusing. They say one thing and then do another. They're saying we got to keep inflation under control, but also we're cutting rates not because of inflation. We're cutting rates because of America. That's literally why Tiff Macklem is doing this, because Canada's sectors, the tariffs from America and the lack of a trading deal and the slow collapse of our economy is really bad. And so they're trying to increase borrowing power to keep the cycle of debt continuously going. And this is all, I get this, days before the budget gets announced, right? November 4th is when I think the budget gets announced. And today we just got notice of what's going to be included in the budget a little bit, right? So they're preparing for what's going to happen. And I think it includes some defense spending, some border spending, and then also spending for gender and equity or something like that. We're going to take a look at that in a minute here. Oh my goodness. It's freaking weird. But before we get into that stuff, we're going to take a look here at Carney and Trump, who were in South Korea together, but they didn't really talk. So even though Carney is, now without a trade deal, without even negotiations with the American president, he had an opportunity to say, hey, Trump, let's figure this out. Nope, they didn't talk at all. They were civil, but they didn't talk. Let's have a look.
To South Korea now, where Prime Minister Mark Carney is on a mission to boost trade with Asia. U.S. President Donald Trump is also there, and the two leaders met across a table today, but not in the way you might think. The two leaders were invited to a dinner hosted by South Korea's president. It followed a searing post today by Donald Trump on social media that he was not in the country to meet with Canada. Despite that awkwardness of the situation, the two seemed to interact positively. A reporter later asked to the Prime Minister if he had spoken to Trump, and here's that quick exchange.
Dinner, Prime Minister, you chat with the President at all, sir?
Very good. I had a very good conversation with all the presidents.
Okay, so a brief response there. Carney said he's had productive trade conversations ahead of the APEC summit. The CBC's Rafi Boudjikanian is traveling with the Prime Minister, and he has more on the visit to South Korea and what transpired between Carney and Donald Trump at that working dinner.
They kind of pointed at each other when the U.S. president arrived into that room. He was the last of the 8 leaders at that dinner to get there, and sort of pointed at Carney, the prime minister pointing at him back. It's hard to tell if they actually spoke, though. There is some sense that they exchanged a quick word, but no cameras were close enough to capture that audio. And certainly we were told by a Canadian government official that Prime Minister Carney had no intention of interacting with the president this evening. Hard to escape, though, the presence of the U.S. president here. I mean, in those arrival shots you showed, you can see Air Force One was actually right behind the Canadian plane when Mark Carney landed. And then, of course, they end up right across from each other at this intimate dinner. There were always only going to be 8 guests. We didn't have a sense that there was only going to be one table for all of them until we got to South Korea ourselves. The two countries very much still at odds due to these trade talks being cut off because of that Ontario government TV ad. The sense we're getting from a Canadian government official is that nobody on the Canadian side has tried reaching out to the American side.
Yet he's sitting right there, less than 10 feet away from the president, who just ripped up all trade negotiations because of an ad that Carney approved. Carney knew what he was doing. He knew it'd piss off Trump. He's sitting right there. He has an opportunity to do it. And instead, he gets completely embarrassed in front of South Korean leaders. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And now Trump, I think today, is in China trying to work on a deal for America and China. And if Canada was on better terms with America, we would actually get lumped in a little bit, because Trump can use Canada as leverage in a good way, right? He can say, okay, you're going to sign a deal with us, but you're also going to sign a deal with Canada because we share a border. And then that in turn is going to put more money into Canada, which is going to put more money into the U.S. economy, because we are America's largest trading partner and visitors. More Canadians cross into America than any other country. So literally Canada, the economy in Canada growing, and people having more money who want to travel more to America because it's so easy, it's so accessible, is a benefit to America. But none of that matters if this is, his style. If this is what he's trying to do, sit across on the table from the most powerful leader and country in the entire world and not even try to fix a relationship, then none of that matters.
Since last Thursday, and nobody from the American side seems to have spoken to the Canadian side either. And this evening's event is really the only time that the Prime Minister and the President will sort of, there could be a chance that they would interact, because Donald Trump is leaving sometime tomorrow, while Mark Carney will be here for a couple of more days. We know that it's the first time they've been in the same room since last Thursday, though both men were in Malaysia. They didn't speak there either at the first of the major 2 summits in Asia this week.
Thanks, Rafi. That's the latest from the CBC's Rafi Boudjikanian covering the Prime Minister.
It's pathetic is what it is. It's absolutely pathetic. I mean, we're sitting across from Trump, who we've just pissed off, who Carney just pissed off personally, right? Not like an oopsie daisy, but like a, hey, we're going to take an ad using and misquoting your old president, and we're going to twist it into some propaganda in your country. Canada deserves the pain. Like, not you. I don't feel like I deserve it. I didn't vote for this. But our country does, and our leaders deserve to be humiliated. It sucks, and it's very unfortunate because it does affect us, and it likely will affect us for quite some time. But I don't know how we fix it right now. I don't even know if it's possible with Carney, to be honest. But now we got to take a look at a little sneak peek into the budget, because the budget for Canada comes out November 4th, big day. Everyone's going to be glued to their phones or TVs and news cycle that day. But we have a little inside scoop. CTV's reporting this. Let's have a look. This is so funny. Okay, ready? The budget is to include new funding for security at Pride, gender-based violence supports. Do I need to read that again? The new budget is to include new funding for security at Pride and gender-based violence supports. Prime Minister Mark Carney's first ever federal budget will allocate millions in new long-term funding for security at Pride events, at gay Pride events, and gender-based violence support. Speaking at the National Art Gallery, Finance Minister Chihuahua and Minister of Women and Gender Equity Rechi Valdez are teasing out more new spending that will be in the November 4th budget. And Canada, as part of this funding, an additional $10.9 million is being set aside over the next few years. The minister said that next Tuesday's budget will include $54.6 million over the next 5 years to support LGBTQS2 plus community in Canada. Canada is setting aside for the next 5 years $55 million. Let's just round up for Pride events. As part of this funding, $7.5 million per year and $1.5 million per year is being allocated for security at Pride events. The federal government is also earmarking $223 million over 5 years and $44.7 million ongoing to strengthen federal action in response to gender-based violence. $55 million is going to Pride events. What do you want me to say to that? Ooh, that's good. What am I supposed to say? Somebody write a comment down in the chat and I'll read it right now because I am speechless. We thought we had the wokest prime minister, and now we're spending millions of our tax dollars on Pride events security. Anyways, let's take a look at Doug Ford. Let's shift away from one gay thing to the next.
Has a piece that speaks about Ambassador Hoekstra, to use a blunt phrase, cursing out your Ontario representative in the United States at a meeting. What do you say to that? This was related to your advertisement related to Donald Reagan. Yeah. What's your response to Ambassador Hoekstra's words?
Come on, Ambassador. He's a guy. You know something? I like him. Pete, you got to call Dave up and apologize. It's simple. You know, the cheese slipped off the cracker. I get it. You're ticked off. But call the guy up because you're a good guy, and Dave's my champion. The guy is just instrumental in these trade deals down in Washington. And, you know, some of the people get hot. They get heated. I get heated sometimes. But just call the guy up and bury the hatchet because the ambassador's a good guy, actually. I love Dave. I like the ambassador, so he knows what to do. Come on, Pete, you've been around for before Moses. Call the guy up and apologize. Let's start getting back on track.
Oh, that's a weird thing to say, you know, like biblical humor, I guess. I don't know. Doug Ford is, he wants the U.S. envoy to apologize. He wants America to apologize. Doug Ford spent $75 million of Ontario taxpayers' money misrepresenting Ronald Reagan's words And in fact, there's like videos out there that show a depiction, a side-by-side comparison of the Chinese Communist Party's ad of Ronald Reagan speaking about tariffs and Ontario using Ronald Reagan to speak about tariffs. And Ontario kind of used the Chinese Communist Party's ad. Yeah, it's not good for Canada. It's not good. Oh my goodness. And now everything is politicized. Baseball, dude. Baseball is politicized. You got our politicians going, it's not just about the game. It's country versus country. Like, shut the hell up. Why does everything have to be politicized? That's a part of today's problem. Why can't we just have baseball as baseball? Yeah, the Jays is the only Canadian team. Yeah, they're against the LA Dodgers, like a very strong American team. LA, New York, very, very prominent American cities. Okay, sure. Like, just let things exist without politics. These people are ruining our lives. Everything is politicized. Baseball is politicized because of what's going on with America right now. It's just nuts, dude. I'm just so tired of it. I'm so sick and tired of this. I just want to freaking be normal. I just want a normal life. You know what I'm saying? I just want to go back to normal. My goodness.
I was wondering if you intend to take advantage of that and, increase the recruitment efforts for Ontario.
I'd love to. Call 1-800-DOUG-FORD, all the docs, and come by, call me on my cell phone. It's on the internet. People are taking advantage of it now. But come by, and we'll have you working real quick. I'd love to see the doctors, nurses. We'd like to see anyone in healthcare come to Ontario because we're a growing community.
What would be the selling points from Ontario to Quebec doctors? Do you have any ad campaign idea?
Well, first of all, we're rich in Francophone culture here, over 600,000 Francophones, and there's something about myself and Quebecers, we connect. They're passionate, they're fighters. I love Quebecers. And so come by and we'll get you connected somewhere within the healthcare system. We need docs. We've already hired over 16,000 doctors. We're paying for their education in medical school. We're adding more medical schools. But the seasoned veteran docs, best quality of life you've ever have. Come by. We'll roll out the red carpet for you. And I think we need a couple docs, too, up in the northern communities.
Yeah. Every province needs doctors. Every province is on a massive doctor shortage because of, I don't even know how you call it. Can you say retardation from our politicians? The fact that they just haven't been setting up and implementing the right policies to be able to actually get doctors incentivized to want to work in Canada? Because that's a real thing. Doctors don't want to work in Canada because there's less incentive. You can make more money elsewhere and have a substantially better quality of life in other countries. That's it's kind of a reoccurring theme with Canada. But the real icing on the cake with Doug Ford is this, where he says he was with Prime Minister Carney when he approved the anti-tariff ad. So Doug Ford is throwing Carney under the bus, saying, well, yeah, it was Ontario's ad, but the Prime Minister approved it.
Back to the Reagan ad, how do you know the Prime Minister and his Chief of Staff saw this particular ad before you moved ahead with airing it?
I was with them. Anyways, everyone's obsessed. Just think of that, 11.4 billion impressions or views. Like, that means every leader in the world saw it, and it's just real. It's a real ad. It worked. It was the most successful ad ever. I don't know any ad that's ever hit 11.4 billion in every single country in the world. Their leadership and population was watching it because it's real. Ronald Reagan is telling the truth. A tariff on Canada is a tax on American people.
That is a lot of people. 11.4 billion watches. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of money spent. $75 million will get you 11 billion views, apparently. Now we're going to take a look here at some members of Parliament being interviewed outside of Parliament and what they had to say.
Blanchard being called to the ATI committee. I believe your party supported that. Why? Well, because transparency and accountability are important in Parliament. You know, the Prime Minister put all of his assets in a blind trust in advance of the election before Canadians had a chance to actually see what those were. And so I think that it's important that Canadians have confidence in their Prime Minister. And so calling people who can testify to those issues, I think, is important.
And the end game is what? What do you just, you know?
Transparency and ethics. Thanks.
Good. Appreciate your stuff.
Oh, yes. Mark Carney, the king, the queen of transparency and ethics. Even though it's already been uncovered, Mark Carney's investments have skyrocketed the moment after the election was called and that he became the prime minister. Yeah. The king of ethics himself.
Care about Sabia and Blanchard at ATI committee, what you just voted on. Any thoughts on that? Just asking because you guys just voted on it.
Yeah, well, the committee is tasked with reviewing the Conflict of Interest Act, and I think the witnesses that are being compelled to appear by the House of Commons have a lot of value to add to our study, and I'm looking forward to having them come.
What's the end point of this? More transparency, or?
I think the end point is transparency and accountability, and I think Canadians deserve to know that when their public office holders are in office, that they are aware, Canadians are aware of what their holdings are and what it represents and how that impacts some of the decisions that are being made.
Question is, the Bloc and the NDP, I believe, supported this motion. Yep. What do you think of that?
Well, the Bloc has been very interested in this study. We heard last week, for example, that Brookfield had used tax havens to dodge over a 5-year period while the Prime Minister was the head of Brookfield, $6.5 billion in Canadian taxes. So that piqued the interest of the Bloc. It also piqued the interest of the NDP, and frankly, I'm not surprised that they supported this motion today.
King of transparency, Mark Carney. That is so freaking funny, man. Oh my goodness. I'm just ready for it to all be over. Whatever that even means. I don't even know what that means. Another election where the Conservatives win, Trump just putting money into ads to show that America can easily conquer Canada if they wanted to. Like, I don't even know what it is that I want. I just want this to stop. I just want it to stop. I'm going to go back to living a normal life. I want to not worry so much about the cost of food, the cost of houses, sitting at the edge of my seat for a Bank of Canada interest rate announcement, like just all this weird stuff where our emotions are fluctuating every single day. I'm just so tired of it. Am I the only one? Is that too much to ask? Or we just go back to living our life where we just have our daily routine, we brush our teeth in the morning, we sit on the can, we have a cup of coffee, not necessarily that particular order. Okay, we go about our day, we make breakfast, we hang out with our friends, we go for a drink after, you know, oh, you want to go out for dinner tonight? Sure, yeah, that's okay. Can we afford it? Why do you even have to ask that? Of course, it's good living right now. Everyone can afford going out. You go to restaurants, kids are running around, families are having kids. They're not worried about, well, I don't know if we can make ends meet. You know, we're getting to that age though. We're in our 30s. Should we start a family? It's now or never. Like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I want people in their 20s to start being like, yeah, let's have kids. Let's get a house. It's affordable. We got a job. Oh, hey, wife, you know, you can stay home. You can look after the kids. Papa can go to work. Like, why can't we just go back to that? You know, like, does that seem too far a stretch? Am I asking too much? I don't even know. I don't even know if I'm asking too much. I don't even know if that's a pipe dream anymore. If that's just in movies, right? Now we get to look back at those days and those days on movies, and it's like, oh yeah, wow, that's we had it good, didn't we? We had it good. Anyways, I feel like maybe I'm asking too much. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. I'm so fed up with this. I'm so freaking fed up with this. All right, we're going to take a quick look here at CTV because they're talking about Danielle Smith and they think they've hit a grand slam here, but let's dissect this.
Just some reaction there from Alberta's teachers union and opposition after the provincial government passed legislation using the notwithstanding clause to impose a new contract on striking teachers, ending their 3-week strike and forcing them back to classrooms by tomorrow. The notwithstanding clause is a sort of get out of charter free card that allows provinces to circumvent certain protections under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So what happens now? Dimitrios Nicolaides is Alberta's education minister, and he's with us live right now from Edmonton. Minister, a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for making the time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Minister, why does your government's failure to plan for population growth have to be rectified on the backs of teachers?
Well, I wouldn't characterize it as a government failure to plan for population growth. In 2023, our school divisions were working to close classrooms and close student spaces because our enrollment levels were simply not there. This was a province-wide issue, not simply a government challenge, but something that all of our school divisions were experiencing. We did, however, receive a historic amount of new Canadians flooding into the province that I know has put pressure on many other provinces. I know Premier Eby in British Columbia has recently talked about the significant challenges that his province has faced due to unchecked immigration. And so we are working as hard as we can, though, to build new schools, invest more in our education system to help contend with this incredible surge in population growth that we've seen. And just to put it into context, 2023 was the highest level of population increase that we've ever seen in our province's history. And so we're working as aggressively as we can, and we still have a lot more work to do, but we're tackling the issue head on.
The reason that I characterize it as a failure to plan is because I can think back to a time when your party was still in power under a previous premier, where a campaign was launched, for example, to increase net migration from other provinces. I can think back to January 2024 when Premier Smith, not Premier Kenney, said, let's have an aggressive target to double our population. People are going to want to come here and we have to embrace them. And we want to build this place out. My understanding is there's 91,000 new students in the system over the last 5 to 6 years. Only now is your government promising to build new capacity for them. Why is that the teacher's problem and not yours?
Well, it's not the teacher's problem at all. It is our problem. And we did announce a year ago an $8.6 billion commitment to build and renovate 130 schools. And yes, you're correct. We did have a strategy to encourage individuals from other provinces to move to Alberta and find a better future. This was not an international campaign, but even if it was, the provincial government does not control immigration levels. And as I mentioned a moment ago, other premiers, NDP Premier David Eby in British Columbia has raised significant concerns over federal immigration policies, and we're aligned with them in the thinking that there needs to be more of a sustained and thoughtful approach as to how we deal with immigration. That being said, it is our challenge to address, and we are addressing it head on. We'll be working to build and renovate 130 new schools. We're investing more into our classrooms. We're committed to hiring 3,000 more teachers and 1,500 new EAs, educational assistants, and we'll address those concerns head on.
I have to ask with great respect, who do you think would want to come work for your government? What teacher or EA, after what's unfolded in the last 24 hours, do you think would want to work for an employer that actively works to suppress their rights?
Well, we have one of the strongest education systems in the country. Our students in international PISA rankings continue to rank amongst the very top in Canada in reading, in writing, in math, and science, and the top internationally. We have a very strong education system. In addition, after our teachers receive the 17% increase that has been provided to them as part of the settlement, they will be the highest paid, have the highest take-home pay in Western Canada. So we are not just competitive, but leading the pack in so many regard and so many respects. And I think that's something that's quite enticing to many professionals.
Minister, again, with great respect, I take your point on the level of compensation, but I'm sure you understand from the teachers that
Vash is trying to get them in like a gotcha, right? It's just not really working. At least that's my understanding.
you oversee, that wasn't all that they cared about. You have essentially introduced, through using the notwithstanding clause, the ability for the government to override a teacher's right to strike. They feel, and they have conveyed this on multiple occasions, disrespected by your government. I ask again, what teacher would want, with great respect, to come work for you?
These are such stupid and fully loaded questions, man. Where was this questioning when the government, the liberal government, was like, why would anyone want to protest in this country when you can just send stormtroopers to beat the shit out of them? Why would anyone trust Mark Carney after he's literally getting rich the moment he became prime minister? Why would anyone trust our liberal government, our liberal politicians? Like, it's such hypocrisy. It's such one-sided bullshit from Vashti. Sometimes she's like half decent. Right now, it's such stupidity because she doesn't treat all other people equally to what she's doing right now with Alberta. Why would anyone trust her government? Why would any teacher want to come work with you? You know how many times Vashti could have asked a Liberal MP that? Any single time she speaks to a Liberal MP, she could have said, why would anyone trust your government when you keep getting caught up in controversies, when you guys keep getting stuck with all these ethics violations, when you keep doing this and keep doing that and shutting down government and all these things? Like, you know, I don't like this part. I don't like this part of the game. It really grinds my gears the wrong way.
Well, as I mentioned, I think I provided some detail to that answer a moment ago. You know, that being said, our teachers have been on strike for over 3 weeks, and we're not coming closer together in our positions. The latest proposal from the union leadership moved us $2 billion further apart. We then subsequently invited the Alberta Teachers Association to enhanced third-party mediation to help us resolve our differences, to help us bridge the divide and find a path forward. They outright refused to participate in enhanced mediation. So we don't have any other option here. Our students have been out of school for 3 weeks. There are clear studies that demonstrate that such closures and prolonged outages will negatively impact, it's not a question of if, but will negatively impact students academically, socially, and psychologically. As Minister of Education and Childcare, I cannot allow a circumstance to continue that hurts the well-being of children and our students. And so students must return to the classroom as quickly as possible. That's why our government has implemented this measure. Unfortunately, after 18 months of bargaining, we were moving further away, and a refusal to participate in mediation, we had very limited options left.
I mean, we saw during COVID what kind of toll it takes on kids when they can't go to school, when they can't socialize. You're also forcing parents to now stay home from work to look after the kids, right? Like you're messing up a whole system with this stuff. The students are the ones that are suffering. Then a lot of parents are going either into further debt to try to pay for, you know, some last minute childcare, or to stay home and not work. So now it's taking a burden on the economy. Like, I get that teachers want their raises and stuff like that, but what exactly is the government supposed to do? Allow teachers and professors to just yell and cry and make the students pay? It's always hurting the students when this stuff happens. And Vashti's just so one-sided about it. She's had so many opportunities to be that harsh on the Liberal government when she brings on Liberal MPs as guests and never does anything about it. Anyways, we saw the interview together. I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Do you think that Vashti was being silly and unnecessary? Do you think that this is a bad look for Danielle Smith and the Alberta government? Let me know where you guys lie on this issue down below. Ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to be taking a look at question period. For those that weren't here at the very beginning of the stream, I did say that once we get through the main meat and potatoes of question period, once we're past the halfway mark, getting close to the 3/4 mark, once all the main conservatives, the main people have spoken, that's where I'm going to end it. We're unfortunately not going to go for the full stream just because I don't have time for the Green Party. I don't have time for the NDP. And I don't have time right now. Okay. You can tell by the shirt I'm wearing. I just don't have that time. But on Monday, in like a few days, we'll be watching the full thing, might even stream after question period. Okay. Just so everyone knows. All I ask in return is for you guys to hit the like button. It's free to do. It's free to do. And subscribe to the channel so you don't miss videos. You don't miss the streams. And without further ado, let's go. Question period time.
An entire nation. Our attention must be focused entirely on the future, to the next date, a date that we can't afford to miss. Jacques Parizeau left us with a fundamental message at the end of his life, a message that resonates in the current continental context as well as our destiny. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, he said.
Member for Don Valley North.
Mr. Speaker, this past weekend I had the pleasure of joining the Toronto Neutralia Lions Club for their wonderful Diwali and Thanksgiving celebration. I want to take this occasion to acknowledge the Neutralia Lions Club for their dedication to humanitarian causes and charitable organizations. I commend them for fundraising an incredible $143,500 to help equip North York General Hospital in my riding of Don Valley North with more cancer care and emergency beds. I advise the House of this great community-minded group of neighbors, professionals, and retirees who volunteer their time and effort to keep making Don Valley a better place for everyone. As you see, Mr. Speaker, when the community calls, the lions roar.
Yes.
Yes.
Roar. The honourable member for North Island, Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, in a democracy, we elect leaders based on the promises they make, and we hold them accountable based on the promises that they keep. This Prime Minister was elected on the promise to get the cost of living under control. Instead, prices at the grocery store keep going up. He was elected on the promise to, quote, build, baby, build, to double the pace of new home construction. Instead, CMHC says home building will drop 13% over the next several years. He was elected to get spending under control, to embark on a series of nation-building projects and to strike a trade deal with the United States. 6 months later, not a single permit approved, not a single shovel in the ground, and Canada's spending and debt is higher than ever before. And not only is there no deal with the Americans, this Prime Minister has removed Canadian counter-tariffs while getting nothing in return. It's been 6 months of broken promises, Mr. Speaker. Canadians want to know how much longer they have to wait before they start seeing results from this Prime Minister.
Good job. Good job. Good job. The honourable member for Whitby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to spotlight two exceptional educators in my riding who are receiving the Prime Minister's Award for Teaching Excellence. These awards celebrate the finest in Canadian teaching, and both recipients represent the very best of Whitby, laying the foundation for a stronger Canada, one student, one classroom, one lesson at a time. Congratulations to Melissa Runhart, recipient of the National Certificate of Excellence, and Penny Senior, recipient of the Regional Certificate for Achievement in Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. Melissa and Penny, thank you for all you do. We are proud to honor you today. Your influence extends far beyond the classroom. Colleagues, please join me in recognizing these two exceptional teachers.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Revelations at the Ethics Committee have exposed the Prime Minister's company, Brookfield, as one of Canada's largest tax dodgers. Leading tax transparency experts show that Brookfield avoided an incredible $6.5 billion in Canadian taxes through the use of offshore tax havens over just 5 years. Now, while chair of Brookfield, the Prime Minister set up 3 multi-billion-dollar investment funds in Bermuda and the Cayman Islands, shielding profits from Canadian taxes. And these are funds that could line the Prime Minister's pockets through future bonus payments. Canadians deserve to know that the Prime Minister is making decisions in the public interest, not his own financial interest. That's why it was shocking that Liberals voted to try to shut down this investigation to improve transparency for Canadians, while Liberals vote to protect powerful politicians politicians. Conservatives will stand up for hardworking Canadian taxpayers. We will not back down. We will defend hardworking Canadian taxpayers, and we're going to hold this Liberal Prime Minister accountable.
The honourable member for Vaudreuil.
Throw a W in the chat.
To recognize the incredible work of the Pure Art Foundation and the group of 39 Canadian volunteers who recently returned from their annual humanitarian trip to Pucallpa, Peru. Led by Robert and Bridget McKinnon of Hudson, this team built a new home for a family of 10 in the Menante district. Through the foundation's CAST program, they worked alongside local tradespeople to lay bricks, install windows, and build a home that will keep a family safe and dry during the rainy season. They even furnished it with new mattresses, pillows, and sheets, a true gift of both comfort and dignity. Since building its first home in 2007, the Pure Art Foundation has supported the creation of more than 40 homes, a medical clinic, a daycare, a community center, and a sustainable sewing initiative that empowers women to support their families. To every volunteer who participated in this year's trip to Peru, thank you for showing what true compassion looks like. You remind us that when we come together as a community, there is no limit to what we can achieve. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Newmarket, Aurora.
All right. We're going to start here in a moment.
2.2 million visits to Canada's food banks in a single month, and 1 in 3 of those walking through the doors are children. That's over 700,000 little ones in a single month. Too many Canadian families cannot afford to feed themselves, and what do the Liberals say? Why should parents feed their children when the government can do it for them? As if dependence on the government were compassion. Conservatives believe in a Canada where every parent can afford a safe home and good food for their family, but this Prime Minister stubbornly doubles down on the same inflationary policies that drove food prices through the roof. Every dollar this Liberal government overspends comes from Canadians, and it drives the price of everything, including food, up. When will the Prime Minister stop punishing Canadians, reverse inflationary deficits, remove hidden taxes on groceries, fertilizer, farm equipment, so that food prices can finally come down?
The honourable member for Oakville West.
Mr. Speaker, today, as the first Canadian of Turkish heritage elected to Parliament, I'm deeply honored to join the students of Turkish Canadian community who are right here in the gallery above as we celebrate the 102nd anniversary of the Republic of Turkey. C'est une journée très spéciale pour les Canadiens d'origine turque. October 29th reaffirms our NATO allies' commitment to democracy and national sovereignty. Turkish Canadians honor the legacy of Atatürk, whose vision and determination gave birth to a secular, democratic, and contemporary state. His enduring principle, peace at home, peace in the world, reminds us of the importance of stability and cooperation among both nations and the peoples. Atatürk's belief that sovereignty belongs to unconditional to the nation deeply resonates here in Canada, where democracy, freedom, and diversity define who we are. Long live Turkey, long live Canada, long live our enduring friendship and alliance. Cumhuriyet Bayramınız kutlu olsun.
What the heck is that?
Oral questions.
Oral questions. Questions. All right. Honorable leader.
After 10 costly budgets, deficit budgets from these Liberals, they've ballooned the debt, the cost of groceries and housing. Canadians now deserve an affordable budget for affordable living. The Prime Minister promised that people could judge him based on food prices, but those prices have only gone up, and the number of people using food banks has doubled. So will the government work in cooperation with us, with our proposals for an affordable budget and affordable living? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, we will certainly work towards affordability with an affordable budget, but the opposition leader is making proposals that he wouldn't even put in his own election platform. 6 months ago, Canadians gave us a mandate to present a plan to spend less and invest more, and that's what we're going to have on November 4th. And I hope that the opposition leader will not trigger Christmas elections and that he will support our budget.
Wow. You're threatening an election.
Clearly, the government House Leader doesn't want to trigger an expensive election over an expensive budget. But Canadians should not have to choose between an expensive budget or an expensive election. They should be able to choose an affordable budget for affordable living. And that's what we're proposing. For example, scrapping the tax, the industrial carbon tax on farmers so that Canadians could buy affordable food. Will the Prime Minister accept that proposal? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, we announced a series of steps going to affordability, including school food programs and automatic registration for benefits that should reduce poverty among Canadians. But each time we propose an affordability measure, the opposition leader orders his troops, he orders them to vote against them. So which foot is he dancing on? Either he wants to help Canadians or he wants a Christmas election. Which is it?
Oh, wow.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians cannot afford
Liberals are
a
threatening an
10th
election.
costly budget
For the budget
that drives up the price of groceries and housing. What they need, in fact, is an affordable budget for an affordable life. This Prime Minister, though, has driven up the cost of the bureaucracy, the consultants, and therefore inflation, so Canadians are paying more for everything. We have put forward common sense proposals to make life more affordable, like eliminating all the hidden taxes on food. Will the Prime Minister put partisanship aside and work with us on an affordable budget for an affordable life?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, happy days, Mr. Speaker. There will be an affordable budget for an affordable life presented in this House on November 4th. And we certainly hope the opposition leader will order his troops to vote for it instead of ordering the very nervous ones to vote against it and cause a very expensive Christmas election here in Canada. Will the opposition leader tell his very nervous troops to vote for our affordable budget on November 4th?
Dude, that's crazy that they're threatening an election.
There he goes, trying to use a costly budget to trigger a costly election. And we know what he wants to distract from the fact that this Prime Minister has broken every promise he's made by triggering a costly election on a costly budget. But, Mr. Speaker, Canadians shouldn't have to choose between a costly budget and a costly election. They can choose an affordable budget with an affordable life. And we're putting forward the proposals on how to do that, like eliminating the industrial carbon tax on our farmers who feed us. Will they take our positive, collaborative ideas for an affordable budget and affordable life? Yes or no?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
There he goes again. There he goes again, Mr. Speaker, with the imaginary taxes. More and more and increasingly, Mr. Speaker, in his own caucus, he has imaginary friends. So this leader of the opposition understands, as all Canadians do, that they gave us a mandate 6 months ago for stability, for calm, not slogans, solutions, affordability, get a trade deal with the United States, and yes, Mr. Speaker, bring a plan and a budget to build a Canadian economy very strong.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, that member and the Prime Minister are trying to provoke a costly election on their costly budget. They're again playing costly games. But this is not about games. This is about the people lined up at food banks, 2.2 million of them. That number has doubled since this government took office 10 years ago. It's about Jacqueline Stone, who says it's heartbreaking. It's hard. It's just tough making ends meet. She says that she feels embarrassed and disheartened to have to turn back items when she's at the checkout and her bank account goes empty. Will the government reverse course and bring in an affordable budget so that people like Jacqueline can have an affordable life?
Well said. Well said.
Well, let's hear from another person in Canada who's doing really important work as well, and that's Kirsten Beardsley, the CEO of Canada Food Banks. And she said with proper long-term investment and improved access, these kinds of initiatives are showing early promise for greater adoption and expansion. She also said that we should make the school food program permanent.
These Liberal programs do not feed children. They feed bureaucracy, consultants, lobbyists, and insiders. We know that because since they brought in all of these promises, we've seen food bank use more than double. By the government's own admission, 25% of kids go to school hungry after 10 years of these Liberal policies. Why? Because the more this government spends, the more things cost. Every dollar they spend comes out of the pockets of hardworking Canadians. Haven't they learned their lesson after 10 years that we need an affordable budget so Canadians can have affordable lives?
It's simple. Come on. It's so simple. Make life affordable.
Mr. Speaker, it's clear that the Leader of the Opposition's driving for a Christmas election. He'd rather do that, Mr. Speaker, than stand up for the moms and dads.
Wow, the gaslighting is real.
Who are looking for affordable child care, who want us to make the school food program permanent, Mr. Speaker, who want to invest in women's safety, Mr. Speaker, in shelters and homes and wraparound housing, Mr. Speaker. That's what Canadians want. They want things that are going to help their families and their communities, and these guys are threatening to take it all away.
Wow. They're freaking lying. They're gaslighting you and me.
Mr. Speaker, the government is in a minority position. If they want their budget to pass, they have to negotiate with someone. But this morning, the government House Leader confirmed that he is talking to the opposition, but he isn't negotiating. He himself says so. He doesn't call it negotiations. He says that the opposition's demands in terms of principles are out of the question. In short, he's willing to talk, but not negotiate. He'll talk, he'll chat, he'll discuss, but that's it. So does he want this budget to pass, or is he trying to trigger a Christmas election? The Honourable Government House Leader.
Even the bloc sees through it.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker,
that's crazy.
I always enjoy discussing with my counterparts and members on all sides of the House. Obviously, she should speak to her colleague from Gaspésie, les Îles de la Madeleine, or from Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean. I've had very interesting discussions about some very important projects in their ridings. Maybe she has some, and I'd be pleased to dialogue, discuss, negotiate, whatever you want to call it, with her and their leader as well. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. The Liberals simply don't want to negotiate for us to support their budget.
They want to spend, or they're going to put us through another election.
They don't want to correct the injustice in old age pensions. They don't want to transfer money to housing and infrastructure without strings attached. They don't want to give Quebec back the $814 million they stole to buy Canadian votes. They don't want to help young people get property. They just don't want to. It seems what they do want is to call an election at Christmas. Why don't they just come clean?
Oh my goodness, we're actually agreeing with the bloc for once.
Mr. Speaker, the only question is who from the bloc or the Conservative Party wants to trigger a Christmas election most? The bloc has given us a series of non-negotiable demands. The bloc itself is talking about non-negotiable demands. How do you negotiate something that's non-negotiable? They talk about money that Quebec is owed. The Conservative leader wants the deficit brought down. The bloc wants more spending. We're trying to strike a balance. The Honourable Member for Joliette-Nanawan. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are responsible for the current housing crisis. The PBO calculated rents have increased by 26% just because of the federal government's excessive immigration policies. All tenants, including immigrants, are paying 26% more in rent because of the Liberals. To correct this fiasco, the Rapid Housing Initiative has to be renewed and made permanent, and Quebec's share must be transferred to Quebec unconditionally. That's the minimum. Why are the Liberals refusing to include this in the budget, even to the point of threatening an election?
Dude, the bloc is cooking right now.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the question.
For supporting affordable housing, and we are focused on homelessness first and foremost. Mr. Speaker, we are dedicating $1 billion, the first billion in the budget, to solving homelessness, working with cities and towns across the country to get supportive modular housing built, transitional housing to help people out of shelters, off of the street, and into a safe place to call home. We are committed to affordable housing, and we will follow through.
The honourable member for Newt-Tecumseh-Gwillimbury.
Every dollar the Liberals spend come right out of the pockets of Canadians. Under Trudeau, the Liberals' consumer carbon tax made everything more expensive, while their record spending led to higher prices and lower paychecks, with the debt burden falling on younger Canadians most of all. Now this Prime Minister is doubling down in his budget with an industrial carbon tax, more costs, and billions more in deficits. Justin Trudeau already mortgaged Canadians' future. So why is this banker Prime Minister foreclosing on it?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, while the party opposite is focused on their leader and what he said last week, we are laser focused on Canadians. On November 4th, we are going to table a generational budget, Mr. Speaker. We are going to invest in Canadians, we are going to invest in Canada, and we are going to build. We are going to invest in infrastructure, defense, housing. Mr. Speaker, we believe in Canada. I ask the party opposite to support our budget on November 4th. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oh my God, they're sending us to a Christmas election.
I ask the party opposite, haven't Canadians sacrificed enough? For 10 years, they've paid the price for a Liberal carbon tax. This government falsely claimed would put more money back in their pockets than it took out. Now this Prime Minister is pulling the same stunt with his industrial carbon tax. He claims there's no impact, even as it increases costs on farm equipment, fertilizer, and ultimately groceries. Conservatives want an affordable plan. Will the Prime Minister scrap his industrial carbon tax in his budget so families can eat again?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, while the party opposite is focused on imaginary taxes, we are focused on real tax cuts, cutting taxes for 22 million Canadians, cutting the GST for first-time homebuyers. Interest rates are going in. We're moving forward with initiatives like the school food program, personal support workers credit. Mr. Speaker, we're focused on affordability for Canadians. I wish the party opposite would stop the rhetoric, get on board, support our budget November 4th.
Holy shit, we're going to a Christmas election.
The Honourable Member for Algonquin, Renfrew, Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals aren't satisfied with 2.2 million Canadians visiting a food bank a month. The new fuel tax will chew up any savings at the gas pump. Grocery prices haven't come down since COVID. Now, we'll never get a break at the cash register. Will the Liberals kill the new fuel standards tax so people can afford to eat?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The members opposite remain fixated on imaginary taxes, and on this side of the House, we remain focused on the supports for Canadian families to help them fight food insecurity. We do this with the program, for example, the National School Food Program, which we are making permanent, the disability benefit, the dental care, child care, and a national housing strategy. Time and time again, we are there for Canadian families, and members opposite vote against these investments in our communities.
The Honourable Member for Algonquin, Renfrew, Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, the new fuel tax will put more ethanol in your gas tank, so you'll have to visit the pumps more often. It'll also cut supply, so the fuel will cost more. When fuel goes up in price, the cost of everything goes up. The Liberals have a chance to kill the new fuel standards tax with the budget. Will the Liberals use the budget to kill the new fuel tax?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we empathize with struggling families, but unlike Conservatives, our government is stepping up to help them with affordability. We cut taxes for 22 million Canadians, reduced GST on new home purchases, significantly reduced child care fees, cut the cost of basic dental coverage, and funded healthy food in schools. Common sense says when families save money on their taxes and on child care and the like, they have more to spend on groceries. But common sense doesn't seem to be so common in the Conservative Party today because they've opposed all of these cost savings measures. Canadians want to know, where are the common sense Conservatives?
The Honourable Member for Vaughan
if their policies worked, why are over 700,000 children lining up at food banks? The Prime Minister promised he'd be judged by the cost at the grocery store. Well, the verdict is in. Food inflation up 4%. We now have 2.2 million people visiting food banks in a single month. And by the federal government's own analysis, a $1.3 billion food packaging tax that's baked right into the cost of every meal. So while Canadians are skipping meals, these Liberals are feasting on new taxes. Will the Prime Minister stop cooking up new hidden costs and scrap his food packaging tax so Canadians can afford to live?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Conservative members seem to enjoy talking Canada down, talk about imaginary taxes.
Goodness.
It's almost as if they're cheering for the LA Dodgers instead of Canada's team last night. Mr. Speaker, while Conservatives vote against measures that support Canadians, we're investing in them. We're building major projects, building homes right across the country. Canadian steel.
Guy's got a 5-head and thinks that he can roast the
Strengthening
Conservatives.
communities, building a future Canada be proud of. So here's my question. Will
Looks like a
Conservatives
thumb,
vote for the
dude.
budget, or will they trigger our next Miss election?
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent, Akia-Wenrack. The Prime Minister said he'd be
The next
judged on the price of
politician who
food.
politicized
And now
the Blue Jays and the
we see the
baseball should be
results.
whacked in the wiener.
Grocery
Like, for real.
prices keep going up.
Not in the good way
fact,
either.
Twice as
In the
fast
way
as
that kinda
inflation.
hurts a little bit.
That's the
It's
Liberal
so annoying.
record after 10 years of neglect. Can the Prime Minister,
He's not
in
even
his
Canadian.
budget,
He's cheering for
scrap
the Dodgers.
taxes that affect
Dude,
food
let sports be sports.
and let Canadians live affordably? The Honourable Minister of Transformation. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers and Canadians
Bet she
judged
swings
the
the bat like a
opposition
girl.
leader
Bet she's
and
never even played baseball
how
in his life.
his plan was not credible or serious.
That shit's so annoying.
We, on this side, have a plan to grow the Canadian economy and also to make life more affordable. We're going to make the national school program permanent, and I would invite, if there's any doubt about how effective our program is, which one of his colleagues called garbage, come to my riding. We'll visit some of these places, the United Way and so on, and see how effective the programs are. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent and Wenrack. Mr. Speaker, these Liberals are so effective that there are over 2 million Canadians using food banks monthly. 2.2 million Canadians. That's the record of this Liberal government after 10 years. Shame on those people. And this is what people are beginning to realize. The more the Liberals spend, the more things get expensive for Canadians. Can the Prime Minister scrap food taxes in his budget and allow Canadians to have an affordable life? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, he'd like to talk about a direct impact on Canadians and on the cost of living. Let's talk about the National School Food Program. That's $800 per family. What about the fact that we've cut taxes for 22 million Canadians? That's also $800 per family. And what about the child benefit, which raised so many children out of poverty? Those are all programs they would have scrapped. And while we're at it, let's talk about the dental care program. 20,000 people in his riding alone have had new access to dental care. That's the thing. Those are the things they'd get rid of on the other side of the House, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, the forestry industry and its workers and municipalities were on the Hill this morning. Chantier, Bougameau, Domtar, Arbec, the Quebec Association of Forestry Contractors, and also Unifor, the Rive of Antoine Labelle, and the Mayor of Fermeneuve. They're all here to demand that Ottawa advance 50% of the amounts payable in countervailing duties, pending reimbursement at the end of the dispute. They expect the federal government to finally support Quebec's forestry industry. When will this government finally take action? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, I welcome them here on the House. I'd be happy to meet with them. I know many of them well. We work with Unifor on other files, and obviously the prevailing situation in the forestry sector has to do with the completely unjustifiable tariffs coming from the White House. So we will support the softwood lumber industry. We will work with them. We already have loan guarantees, which is supported by BDC for $500 million. I'd be happy to meet with my colleague to find solutions for companies in his riding. The honourable member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, if Donald Trump's threat to add another 10% in tariffs, if that should materialize, Quebec's forestry industry will be the hardest hit of all industries in Canada, and yet Ottawa's doing nothing. The financial aid promised in August has still not been released. Our workers are still not protected by a wage subsidy, and our companies are still paying billions in illegal countervailing duties without any federal support. Mr. Speaker, Quebec's forestry industry represents 130,000 jobs in 900 municipalities. When will the Liberals take this crisis seriously and do something? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, one thing is clear. This government will go to bat for jobs in the softwood lumber industry, period. And that's why we're working every day with the industry. I had meetings last week. I spoke with the Quebec Minister of Industry last week, Minister Frichette, the Minister of Natural Resources, and myself, and the Minister responsible for intergovernmental relations. We are on it, and the fund. One mustn't say that the funds are not available. They have been released. They are available, and I'd be happy to work with my colleague further on this issue.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government brags every day about all the money they spend, but it's not their money. It's the paychecks of hard-working Canadians. It's money that families could be spending to put food on the table. But instead, this Prime Minister uses it to feed his endless bureaucracy. They snuck in a hidden industrial carbon tax on fertilizer and farm equipment that hits families on the checkout line. Canada should be the breadbasket for the world, but under this Liberal government, Canada can't even feed itself.
Yeah,
will the Prime Minister
pathetic.
put partisanship aside and scrap the industrial carbon tax in his budget so Canadian farmers can feed this country?
Hear, hear, hear. The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, Halloween has come early for the Conservatives this year. With their imaginary taxes, their ghoulish views on
what
Canadians,
kind of imaginary
calling
taxes
Canadian
are you talking
food
about?
programs
Because
disgusting,
the average
calling
Canadian,
the RCMP despicable,
it's not
and
imaginary.
demanding a $56 billion cut that would get OAS and GIS that seniors rely on gutted. Mr. Speaker, today seniors will see in their bank accounts an increase on their OAS and their GIS deposited right into their accounts. This is Canada's largest anti-poverty initiative, and Canadians know that they can trust us to ensure that we have their backs.
Well done. I see that the Honourable Secretary of State is wearing a button. Unless it says "Have a nice day," it would not be permitted. So.
What's it say? Is it a watermelon button?
Anyway, I just to let the member know.
What's it say?
Thank you.
Show us what the button says.
Honourable member for Cambridge.
Liberals keep saying everything's great, but the only
only.
thing growing faster than their debt is the food bank line, while
Secretary
they
of
play
State,
hide and
yeah,
seek
that's so
on
funny.
taxes.
Somebody find out what
Taxing
that button
farmers
was.
with the hidden
I
industrial
wanna
carbon
laugh.
tax, while 2.2 million people visit the food bank every single
I want a
month,
good laugh.
is insanity. 20% of them work full-time, 33% are children. Anyone but the Liberals can see Canadians are going to bed with empty stomachs on empty promises. Conservatives have a plan to help farmers thrive and families eat. So I ask again, will the Prime Minister support Conservatives' plan to scrap the industrial carbon tax in his budget so Canadian farmers can affordably feed this country?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Canadians know that there are no taxes on their food. So while the Conservatives talk about imaginary taxes, this government is taking real action to support seniors in this country. We're cutting red tape. We're building homes faster.
RCMP.
We've introduced dental care that now more than 2 million seniors have access to. We're building an economy that works for everyone. The Conservatives, however, have a record of pushing the retirement age higher, cutting benefits, and leaving seniors behind. While they're voting against every support for seniors and threatening to do that with the upcoming budget, we're empowering older Canadians. We're protecting them and having their back.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr.
Mr. Speaker, every dollar this Liberal government spends comes out of the pockets of Kitchener Centre residents. Hidden, not imaginary, hidden taxes like the food packaging tax is baked into the sticker price, driving up the cost of food. Will the Liberals' own number shows that Canadians 1.3 billion it will be in costs over the next decade for this tax. The more they spend, the more Canadians pay. Will this Prime Minister put partisanship aside and scrap the food packaging tax so Canadians can afford to live?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Speaker, all across Ontario, families are benefiting from, let me get this, Mr. Speaker, $16 a day for childcare, down from $70 a day. Mr. Speaker, this is phenomenal, and it's adding thousands of dollars in the pockets of Canadian families every single month, Mr. Speaker. That's the power of investing in families. That's the power of investing in children, and that's why Canadians trust us to have their backs and know that these guys would cut everything they rely on in a heartbeat.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Étrements-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister wants to be judged on the basis of grocery store prices. Ironically, Liberal hidden taxes on food are driving up grocery costs. We're talking about the industrial carbon tax, the food packaging tax, and clean fuel regulations that increase the cost of transporting, producing, and marketing food. The more the Liberals spend, the more Canadians pay at the grocery store. Will the Prime Minister eliminate these food taxes in his budget and make life more affordable for Canadians? The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Across the way, they're still talking about these imaginary taxes. I spoke to the Breakfast Club of Canada today, and that's an organization that supports many children to have access to the nutrition program in school. They say that making the National Food Program permanent is an important step for health, learning, and the well-being of children, as well as for social and economic resilience in Canada. I hope my colleagues across the way will support this budget and support this program being permanent. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Étrements-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, figures are stubborn. Food inflation is skyrocketing, up by 4%. Food Banks Canada reported a record 2.2 million visits in a single month this week. 20% of food bank users work full-time. 33% of users are children. The Conservatives have a plan to make life affordable for Canadians again. I repeat, will the Prime Minister eliminate these food taxes in his budget and make life affordable for Canadians? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. Mr. Speaker, it's fascinating to hear the Conservatives tell us about imaginary taxes. There are no taxes on groceries. I'd repeat it for the benefit of the colleagues across the way. If they want to talk about real things, not imaginary things, let's talk about the dental care program that helps about 20,000 people in her riding. How about the food program in schools? Thousands of people in her riding. What about other programs that will help 100,000 kids in Quebec? The very programs that this school food that these agencies support, they only have a plan to sacrifice these programs.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's forestry industry, anchored in my home province of British Columbia, is not just a regional asset, it's a national economic engine. I recently met with BC Council of Forest Industries and forest sector leaders to discuss how we can support this valuable sector that provides over 200,000 jobs and contributes over $25 billion to our GDP. The United States tariffs on softwood lumber are hurting both Canadian producers and American consumers and related industries. While the Conservatives want us to sign any sort of deal, our government's working towards getting the best deal for Canadians and for the impacted sectors. In the meantime, can the Minister of Industry...
Honorable Minister de l'Industrie.
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Thank my colleague for his important question. Indeed, he is fighting for the Canadian softwood workers as we are as a government, because we will stand strong against these unjustified tariffs. We'll make sure that we get a good deal, but meanwhile, we're there to support for them to have access to
funding to support their workers to adapt and pivot, and eventually to make sure that the world knows that the Canadian lumber in Canada actually is the best in the world. So we'll continue to build Canada strong, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
The Liberal government has blown billions more on consultants, on foreign aid vanity projects, and $1 billion legal gun grab that they themselves admitted won't work. The result has been higher taxes, higher prices, a higher cost of living, and an entire generation of young people who do not believe that they will ever do better than their parents. Canadians are cutting back, they're skipping meals, they're lining up at food banks in record numbers, while this Prime Minister maxes out the nation's credit card like it's someone else's problem. Will they finally stop the waste, stop the taxes, stop the inflationary spending, and put forward an affordable budget for an affordable life here in Canada?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, I've got great news for Conservatives. We've actually got a way to help 5.5 million Canadians with the cost of food. Automatic federal benefits. Through Budget 2025, we're going to pre-file taxes for up to 5.5 million Canadians. This will ensure Canadians get the benefits they are entitled to. Wow. I asked the party opposite. On November 4th, you have a choice to make.
They're threatening an election if they don't vote for the budget.
Benefits, or block the checks and force a Christmas election. Thank
There
you,
you go.
Mr. Speaker.
Force a Christmas election. Are you kidding me, dude?
Mr. Speaker, that minister is in complete denial. Here, he sent $8 million to Vietnam to create gender-just rice. What even is that? The endless cycle of deficits, of taxes, of inflations have crushed families. They've crushed young people. They've crushed workers, and their arrogance blinds them to the damage that they themselves have done. If they want to pass a budget, it's simple. Stop the reckless spending, stop the inflation, stop the hidden food taxes. It's up to them to listen up to Canadians and put forward an affordable budget for an affordable life.
Yeah. Well said. There's some W's down in the chat from Melissa. That was really good.
Mr. Speaker, while the Conservatives are focused on a revolt in caucus, we are laser focused on Canadians. On November 4th, we're going to table a generational budget. We're going to invest in Canada. We're going to invest in Canadians. We're going to build.
And if you don't support it, then
defense,
you're
housing,
forcing a Christmas
aerospace,
election.
and national projects. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we believe in Canada. I asked the party opposite to cut the rhetoric, support our budget on November 4th. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Or else. Support the budget, or else.
We have to try to not be too provocative because provocation creates disorder, and that's a problem. The honourable member for Calgary Midnapore.
The only thing that's revolting are those answers. The Prime Minister promised Canadians he would stop outrageous spending on high-priced consultants. Only 6 months in, this promise is broken. He's already increased spending on consultants by 37%. That's $6 billion. Whether it's Arrive scam, McKinsey and Company, or now the CRA call center, the Liberals will always find a way to pay their consultant friends the big bucks. That's right. So when they table their budget next week, how many more billions can Canadians expect to pay Liberal insiders? Good.
Well said, well said.
The Honourable Minister for Transformation. Mr. Speaker, we've received a very clear mandate from Canadians to reduce the use of consultants to make the government more efficient, spend less to invest more. That's precisely what we'll do in this historic budget on November 4th to build the very foundations of a strong economy in Canada. I hope the Conservatives will support it.
The honourable member for Calgary Midnapore.
Je pense que no. Canadians line up at food banks. Liberal consultants line their pockets. Yesterday, the president of Shared Services Canada admitted they learned a very hard lesson on the contract for CRA call centers, which quadrupled to $190 million under the Liberals' watch. The same hard lesson they learned when GC Strategies blew the roof off of the ArriveCan contract. So I will ask again, how much will Canadians have to pay to Liberal friends and insiders in next week's budget?
I'm not looking forward to this budget.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And as I was mentioning, we received a clear mandate from Canadians to have a government that is more effective. We will always ensure we have the best value for money for Canadians, Mr. Speaker. And while we are preparing to present our budget on November 4th to spend less and invest more. We want to make sure we get the best value for Canadian to build the strongest economy in the G7.
For Brantford, Brant, South, Six Nations.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals blew nearly $1 billion on a gun grab even their own minister admits does not work. He was caught on tape telling the truth. It's a waste of money. The OPP wants no part of it, and the only police force they found to enforce their vanity project, its chief is related to a Liberal MP. What? This isn't safety, it's political theater with a $750 million price tag. When will the Prime Minister scrap this farce and go after criminals instead of law-abiding Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, as I announced several weeks ago, we have a pilot project taking place in Cape Breton, which will be expanded to across Canada over the coming weeks. We look forward to law-abiding Canadians abiding by the law. As you know, Mr. Speaker, we have brought in many measures to ensure that criminals are off our streets, including Bill C-14, which I hope the party opposite supports. It is part of a comprehensive plan to attack crime in this country, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Bow River.
Mr. Speaker, this Liberal government is pushing ahead with a costly and misguided gun grab that ignores the real problem: illegal guns smuggled from the U.S. Instead, they're targeting the most responsible and law-abiding Canadians. In Cape Breton, the mayor says he wasn't consulted, the local police union was blindsided, and the project is run by the brother-in-law of the local Liberal MP. Wow. Canadians need an affordable budget for an affordable life. $750 million is being wasted on this program. Mr. Speaker, when the budget pressures are so high, why are Liberals wasting $750 million on political optics and nepotism instead of cracking down on real criminals and keeping Canadians safe?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Who thought a government could be so
is doing
corrupt,
everything we can to ensure that guns are off our streets. This includes Bill C-12, Mr. Speaker. This includes $1.3 billion investment at our border, 1,000 new RCMP, 1,000 new CBSA officers. We have Bill C-14, which will address the issues around bail. We'll also have a compensation program which will ensure that law-abiding Canadians can get compensation for prohibited weapons, Mr. Speaker, which we hope will be expanded across Canada. This is our approach to a range of issues involving crime, Mr. Speaker. I invite the party opposite to support these initiatives.
The Honourable Member for York Centre.
This year, the Liberal government will spend $1 billion on interest every week. And while the Prime Minister is planning a record-breaking deficit, his accounting gimmick may put Canada's credit at risk. But last week, the Prime Minister told students they'll have to sacrifice even more. Canadians shouldn't be made to sacrifice. After a decade of Liberal failure, they've sacrificed enough. Yes. They don't want more Liberal debt, Liberal waste, and Liberal corruption. Why is this Prime Minister spending like Justin Trudeau on steroids?
Whoa, that's a good one.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Inflation in Canada has been within the Bank of Canada's target range for over 21 months in a row. The Bank of Canada also cut rates again today by 25 basis points.
That's not the flex you think it is, pal.
And real relief for Canadians. While Conservatives seem to root for a recession in Canada, we're making the investments that are needed for our economy to grow and prosper. Conservatives shout slogans all they want, but we'll continue to implement solutions. They divide, we'll deliver. That's progress. That's what Canadians deserve, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for York Centre.
This Liberal member doesn't understand how bad it is out there. More than a quarter of Canadians cannot afford to eat. And now the Prime Minister is telling a room full of students they'll have to sacrifice even more. Young people sacrificed enough. They've already sacrificed home ownership. And yesterday, CTV reported that young Canadians can't even land a minimum wage job. Speaker, question, will the Liberal budget get spending under control so young Canadians can start affording everyday life?
That's the goal. That's the dream.
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Speaker, lowest net debt to GDP ratio in the G7, a AAA credit rating, an inflation rate within the Bank of Canada's target range, job numbers that exceeded expectations by 83% last month. Those are Canada's economic fundamentals. And Citibank CEO just last week said Canada, relative to other G7 countries, has debt dynamics and fiscal space that, if used wisely, would unlock a lot of opportunities in this country. That's exactly what we're focused on, Mr. Speaker, in Budget 2025, unlocking opportunities for all Canadians.
The honourable member for Foothills.
We have just learned that India has placed 30% tariff on Canadian peas. This is on top of the 100% tariffs already in place from China. As a result, 80% of Canada's pea markets now face tariffs worldwide. This is putting Canadian farmers at risk as prices have dropped more than 40%. The Prime Minister and his team was just in India, and now they're in China. Every time they go somewhere, it gets worse. That's right. What is this government going to do to ensure that our farmers get the tariff relief they need to ensure that they can stay in business?
Right on.
The honourable parliament.
Protect our farmers, man.
Mr. Speaker, our government and our Prime Minister have been working hard to ensure that Canadian farmers have access to markets around the world. Part of the work that they've been doing is exactly that, cutting deals with more and more countries to ensure that Canadian farmers can sell their products to more and more markets around the world. And that is exactly what we've been doing from Singapore to Malaysia. These are the things that our government is working hard on. Instead of talking Canada down, Mr. Speaker, our government can work with other governments to ensure that markets are available to Canadian producers.
The honourable member for Laval-les-Îles. Mr. Speaker, one of the best ways to strengthen our Canadian identity is to give more people an opportunity to discover the places, stories, and landscapes that define us. From national museums to parks and historic sites, these shared spaces remind us of who we are. But for many families, the cost of every outing has to be factored into the budget. Can the Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture and Minister responsible for official languages clarify how our government is helping Canadians explore and celebrate their heritage while keeping these experiences accessible to all? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, last summer, the Strong Canada Pass meant families could discover an incredible country while reducing costs. It was a resounding success. More than 200,000 children enjoyed free admission to national museums. Visitor numbers increased by 15%. Participating provincial museums saw a 26% increase in youth attendance. Parks Canada sites saw attendance increase by between 9 and 20%. We are thrilled that the Strong Canada Pass will be back in the winter and the summer 2026, so Canadians can keep discovering the most beautiful country in the world. The honourable member for Chicoutimi-Millefort. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised to negotiate a softwood lumber agreement with the U.S. today. The forestry sector is threatened with tariffs of up to 55%. Do you know what 55% tariffs mean in my riding of Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean? It means 8,000 jobs at risk. Families that just can't pay their bills at the end of the month. Our workers deserve better. Since this Prime Minister took office, tariffs have tripled. Why do the Liberals always hurt forestry workers and their families instead of helping them? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, I understand the anger displayed by my colleague, and I share it because 55% tariffs on our softwood lumber industry is absolutely unacceptable, and this is why this government, on this side, we are here to defend our workers. We're there with the industry. We understand they're going through a crisis right now. We're going to hold their hands. We're going to make sure they can get through this tough patch, and we'll be there with support. We are able to have good conversations, my colleague and myself. We work well together. I'll be happy to help him. The honourable member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, the forestry sector is under attack from American tariffs now standing at 45%. In Chaudière-Appalaches, the forestry sector represents $780 million in employment income. This big banker was supposed to fix everything, right? The result is that it costs Europeans less to ship their wood from Germany across the Atlantic by boat than to ship lumber from Saint-Théophile, right at the American border, Mr. Speaker. Wow, what a great negotiator. Bravo. My question, will the Prime Minister defend forestry workers? Yes or no? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, the answer is clear. Yes, 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 yes. We will be there for the forestry sector because we believe in it, but not just because of that. We know there are things we cannot control. We can't control the administration in the U.S., but there are things we can control. We will focus on the support to our workers, our businesses, and we will ensure to be there while they go through this crisis. We will support them, and we will build, through major national projects, a lot of demand for our sector.
The honourable member for Richmond Hill South.
Every single dollar this Liberal Prime Minister spends comes straight out of the pockets of Canadians through higher taxes, higher deficits, and higher inflation. While food bank use surges to 2.2 million visits per month, this Prime Minister thinks it's a brilliant idea to blow $8.2 million on gender-just low-carbon rice in Vietnam. While the Liberals feed their bloated DEI bureaucracy, Canadians are making sacrifices by skyrocketing food prices, record housing costs, and rising unemployment. So when will this out-of-touch Liberal Prime Minister stop funding his radical DEI programs, stop lecturing working Canadians, and finally deliver an affordable budget for an affordable life?
Damn, dude, that kid didn't waste no time. That was well said. Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, every time the food banks report comes out, I read it. I read what the recommendations are and what those organizations that are focused on reducing poverty and food insecurity in Canada recommend that our government does. Our government recommends that we undertake measures like the National School Food Program, a program which one Conservative member from Newfoundland said last week was garbage, Mr. Speaker. We are investing in our social safety net. We're investing in programs that support families. We are investing in Canadians, Mr. Speaker. Well, that side, the Conservatives talk them down every chance they get.
You know, I don't want to ask. I don't want to ask members to start from the top answering questions because it eats up time. So let's keep that in mind. The honourable member from Labrador.
Mr. Speaker, the Arctic has been home to Indigenous peoples for countless generations. Inuit Nunangat stands at the heart of Canada's identity, its security, and its future. Last week, the Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs was in Iceland at the Arctic Circle Assembly, advancing partnerships and Canada's Arctic leadership. Can the Minister tell this House how the new government is acting decisively? They're arguing over there, Mr. Speaker, because they think they're still in caucus. The new government's acting decisively while collaborating with Indigenous leadership to build Canada's North, upholding our sovereignty and securities as streets increase.
The Honourable Minister for Northern and Arctic Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, the world views Canada as an Arctic nation and is watching how we lead. As climate and geopolitical risks emerge, our government is taking action. We are building partnerships with Nordic countries like the Ice Pact, where Polar Max icebreakers will be built right here in Canada and Finland. We have new Arctic radar stations to boost our defense and enhance early warning systems. We just appointed an Arctic ambassador and will have consulates in Alaska and Greenland. These are some examples of our Arctic leadership where we will build, protect, and empower Canada's North.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister stands to make tens of millions of dollars in future bonus pay from three registered investment funds in Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. Canadians deserve to know the extent to which the Prime Minister is abusing offshore tax havens. So a simple question, how many other investments does the Prime Minister have in offshore tax havens? Just an answer.
Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, as you know, Canada has one of the strongest, most stringent ethics regimes in the world. It applies to every single person in this House. After a very successful career.
I I think, again, I don't like to do this because it eats up time, but I can't hear, so I need to have the minister repeat the answer from the top.
Mr. Speaker, as you know, and as all members know, we live under one of the strongest, most stringent ethics regimes in the world. That applies to every single member in this House, including the Prime Minister. He has complied stringently, in fact, very proactively, with all of these requirements. And the Ethics Commissioner and he, as obviously, have reached, in terms of what his filings are, in terms of the screens and the ethics screens that he's put in place. This Prime Minister has gone above and beyond in complying with all matters of the law.
The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are suffering one of the worst affordability crises in generations. 60% are having trouble meeting their monthly expenses. Half are using credit cards or borrowing money for daily needs, paying interest rates of 19% or more. Food bank usage has doubled since 2019. People shouldn't have to struggle like this in a country as wealthy as Canada. What steps is this government taking to make sure Canadians don't have to go into debt just to feed their families?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm really grateful for that question because the government's taking a number of steps and has been taking steps for a number of years to make sure that Canadians can actually feed their families. For example, the Canada Child Benefit that's lifted 400,000 children out of poverty, Mr. Speaker. That's indexed to inflation. Mr. Speaker, the index to inflation benefits for seniors. Mr. Speaker, the work that we've done on employment insurance to make sure that employees who lose their jobs can actually keep that money while they are on claim. Mr. Speaker, I will tell you that this government will stand with workers, we will stand with families, and I sure hope the member opposite will vote for a budget that is
That brings question period to an end.
Thank goodness. I thought I'd be cutting it short, but turns out it was actually entertaining all the way till the end. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you back. I'll try to do same time tomorrow for the last one of the week. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace and love on your way out. If you haven't yet already, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Free to do, by the way. Free to do, and it helps tremendously. More than you could ever imagine. And go check out the videos on the channel if you haven't yet already seen the highlight from Pierre Poilievre and how the Liberals are threatening a Christmas election if Pierre and the Conservatives and the Bloc do not vote in favor of their massive deficit on November 4th for the budget.